Fodes, you came from professional backgrounds here in England. What were your first impressions when you got to New York and the MLR?
Well, we have to remember that so I joined Rugby United New York in their first season of joining the league. The league had been going for one season beforehand, and there was only 7 teams in it. So then it went to 9 with the introduction of Rooney. And New York's not like anywhere else in the world because it is, impossible. If, everyone thinks of New York, you just think of Manhattan. And so it is impossible for any sports team, let alone a rugby team, whether it's, any team, to have a patch of grass to call like their home in Manhattan. So everyone's got to go everywhere else. For instance, the New York Jets and the New York Giants play in Jersey. So they're not really in New York. They should be called Jersey Jets or whatever, but they're not. They're New York Jets because everyone wants the pull of New York. So anyway, I turn up and I think New York, bright lights, loads of money, loads of like character and stuff. And I turn up and my apartment that I've been renting for like 2 months before I even got there because my green card, my O1 visa was delayed. So I turn up there and all I asked for was a bed to sleep in. Anyway, I turn up to my flat, there's no bed in it. And I'm like, oh, great. So then the manager turns up and says, oh yeah, you're going to go and stay with the captain of the team for the first night. And then the bed's going to be there tomorrow. And I was like, all right, cool. Wanted to stay with the captain. It was fine. Had a chat with him. He told me how things were. Sort of put the fear of God into me because he was like, oh, this is not going to be like Northampton or Sale or, do you know where we're training? And I was like, no. And we were training on Randall's Island, which is basically like a tiny little island, has loads of like sport pitches in the middle of it. So you can rent a bit of grass. But the only other things on that island are drug rehabilitation centers and nut houses and the crazies. And it's the only free bus in New York will take you from the tip of like Manhattan over to Randall's Island. It's the only free bus. So basically, like, we turn up to training for the first time, like kitted up in all the stuff. You get off the train, and the only way you either get an Uber across or you get on the free bus. So then get on the bus, and there's like, I see a few of the guys wearing the kit, but I don't know them. So I sort of sit on my own. And then on the bus gets all these like lemmings who are all hyped up on like heroin and drugs and stuff, and they're like dribbling and like they literally like hover together. So wherever they go together, and they're like shouting random things out. And you're sort of sitting there on the bus just with your backpack on, like you're like a school kid, like you're 8 years old getting on the bus for the first time to go to school, scared for your life that you don't want to catch anyone's eyes. Everyone's looking at you because you're wearing like new gears and stuff. And then you traipse off to this Randall's Island and you turn up, and it was so cold as well. Like in January, it's so cold here, like literally hurts your face to go outside. So it was freezing. Turned up to do that. Anyway, met the owner, saw what was going on, saw the bunch of players, and just thought, Jesus, what have I like traded in here? Because we are training in the arse end of nowhere. Obviously, I have to get that bus every day. I decided to not get the bus every day. I got Ubers from then on. I was lucky enough to do that. But it was just, it was very raw. It was sort of like being, I would say it's not even like as professional as playing like Northwest 3 in England. At least they have their own changing rooms and their own club. Do you know what I mean? There was none of that. And so it was
you just
so
turn up
rough
to the
and
pitch
so raw.
And chuck your bags down at the side. And
yeah, 100%. It was like playing, it's like being at a school, when your school would just find a little patch of land without any posts. You didn't have rugby posts. They just had like goal posts or just markings on a field, and you were just away off to go and play rugby. But what was interesting is the more you did it, the more you realize like, the players were really hungry. The guys who were there, there was a lot of expats, but there was also a lot of American guys who were really keen to become better and really keen to sort of be part of a professional setup of rugby, which is good, which is the main thing. For the MLR to succeed and America to get better on an international stage, they need the MLR to be successful, and they need teams. There's talk of so many teams joining. I know Chicago are in the mix. There was talks of a Hawaii team. Obviously, Dallas are going to join, not this season, but next season. There's so much talk of new teams every year joining the league, and they want to get to sort of the point where it's 20 plus teams, and they can do an East-West conference sort of thing, follow the footsteps of the NFL, because America is so big. It's literally like 50 countries. Every state is its own little country. So it's very exciting, the possibilities that can happen here. It just needs the injection of eyes, and probably needs the injection of cash as well. Money talks, and A few big names to come over. We had Marnonu over last year, Matthew Bastero, guys like that. Chris Robshaw's come over this year. I heard there's a rumor of Matt Gitto playing for the LA team. I know that Billy Meeks has signed for the LL Giltinis. So yeah, it's all exciting. It's all very new. It's going to take another 5-10 years to really get going. But I think what the scary thing about the MLR is that if it does take off, then the money comes, and so they can afford to pay players, £500,000, £1 million a year. Then it'll be very, very attractive to players, just because the European leagues are so tough. They're 11 months long. You get 1 month off, whereas with American sport, they give you a window, and the window is 4 or 5 months, and that's it. That's your window. And they do it with NFL, they do it with basketball, they do it with baseball. And if they do that with rugby, it means that you can earn the same money that you probably earn in Europe playing for half the time, which means that you can look after your body more. It means you can focus on your international rugby if you're lucky enough to be selected to play in those sort of competitions. So it'll be very interesting. I'm very hopeful for MLR, because I think it will change the face of rugby and how it's viewed, because I think that if that does happen, that other leagues are going to have to change the way they approach it, because these 11-month seasons and the wear and tear on the players is just limits their lifespan. And so I think it really will be interesting to see the next 10 years.
I was going to say, Fodes, if there's one player who could adapt and be malleable and flexible, it would be you. For all your talent, you're probably one of the most unprofessional players I've ever met. Respectfully.
You just adapted. It just sounds like you just went with the flow.
This is the man who would eat a bag of Monster Munch the morning of a game and then go play and score a hat-trick.
He was just carb loading. Well, no, Ben, I actually have a question about one of your former teammates. So there was an awful lot of controversy over Bastro's inability to settle in America. And he had constant fallouts with, your coaching staff and some of your teammates. Can you spill the tea on what it was like playing, training and traveling alongside him, albeit only for 3 games?
Do him over. He's French.
Yeah, go on, you're going to have to spill the tea here.
I think that Bastro was sort of sold a different picture in terms of the professionalism of how things were in America. And someone like Bastro, who came from Toulon, one of the biggest teams in the world, playing with some of the best players in the world, to suddenly turn up at Wagner College on Staten Island in January, where it's freezing cold. Yeah, catching a ferry. Plus, he turned up 30 pounds over Bastro weight, and Bastro's never been a good weight, so he turned up big. And for him, it was sort of just a shock to the system. And then, but everyone was expecting this very professional guy to sort of grab the flag and lead the troops forward, in terms of that's everyone's picture in their head when they think of someone like Bastro's coming in. He's so professional, and he captained France a year beforehand and nearly went to the World Cup and just gone and stuff like that. So they were all expecting that. But I played under Philippe Saint-André, and I played with Sébastien Chabal, Bruno, and those guys, Lionel Fieur, all these French guys, and I know what French guys are like. And they're a bit they're the guys who are having a fag around the side of the pavilion before training, and every night having a bottle of red wine with some cheese. And so I knew what to expect from Bastro. I knew that he'd turn up when it came to the games, but in terms of the training and all that sort of stuff, one, he was going to turn his nose up at the training that we were doing. Was literally what the hell are we doing here? But it's hard to say, because Greg is Irish. He's from Leinster. He comes from a professional background as well, and he was expecting the professional Bastro to turn up, whereas I sort of saw it as Bastro was coming towards the end of his season. He was being followed by a TV company out there as well, who had filmed the last couple of months in Toulon, behind the scenes at the Barbarians, and they were filming the first couple of weeks of him joining Rooney. And basically their first weeks were us in Vegas, because we went to Vegas for the opening 2 games. And so I was okay, so it was sort of set up for him to fail in retrospect. And we moved him to number 8 so he could get more hands on the ball. And I thought, he did play well. He was unfit, which annoyed the coaches and annoyed certain players in our team, because obviously they want to drive the game forwards, and they sort of saw it as a bit of a setback of someone of his stature coming there, but sort of taking a back seat rather than taking the steering wheel.
All right.
Chris Astor, who played in Toulon with him, said he's never seen anything like it. He's turning up to training on his moped, sunglasses on, helmet on. He's high-fiving people in the street. He's like celebrated in Toulon, and he reckons like post training, it would be like extra pickup fitness, and he would just go, "Nah." He was the captain at the time, he'd just go, "Nah," and walk off. So, like you say, next thing you know, he's on a ferry to Coney Island. It's not quite high-fiving people in the streets of Toulon, is it?
No, and they put him on a fitness program when he turned up there because they saw the size of him. They were like, "Oh," so instead of doing weights, he was just on a bike downstairs. But no, this is the other problem with MLR is that it's, they have one conditioner guy. They have, a head coach, a backs coach, a forwards coach, and that's it. So when he used to go downstairs to do his bike session, no one would be monitoring him. So you'd walk in and you'd just see him like having a little ride, like he's riding around Central Park.
Oh God.